China has built an unbelievable number of apartments. You've probably seen videos of huge residential compounds, entire new districts, and rows of towers with barely any lights on at night. So from the outside, the situation looks strange. If China has built so many homes, why do young people still complain that housing is too expensive? I work in Shenzhen, and this question doesn't feel strange to me at all, because the problem is not that China has no apartments. The problem is that many of those apartments are not where young people actually want or need to live. There may be cheap homes in smaller cities, distant suburbs, or places where the population is shrinking. But my job is in Shenzhen. A lot of the better paying jobs in technology, finance, manufacturing, and international trade are concentrated in cities like Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, and Hangzhou. So telling a young worker in Shenzhen that there are cheap apartments somewhere else in China is a bit like telling someone in London that housing is affordable in a small town several hours away. That may be true, but it doesn't solve their problem. A home is only useful if your life can actually happen around it. Can you find a job nearby? How long is the commute? Are there schools, hospitals, shops, and public transport? Can your partner also find work there? These questions matter much more than the number of empty apartments in the country. And Shenzhen is a good example. The city has grown very quickly because millions of people came here for work, but the areas with good transport and strong job opportunities are limited. So even though China has built a huge amount of housing overall, the homes that people really want are still concentrated in a small number of cities and neighborhoods. That creates a strange situation. China can have too many apartments in some places and not enough affordable homes in others. Both can be true at the same time. There's another reason housing stays expensive. In China, an apartment is often more than just an apartment. It can affect which school your child attends. It can decide whether your commute takes 30 minutes or 2 hours. And for many families, owning a home still represents stability. Some parents worry that their son will have a harder time getting married without one. Some young couples feel they should buy before having children. Even when they personally don't believe this, the pressure from parents can be very real. So when people buy a home, they're not only paying for the rooms, they're paying for the location and everything connected to it. That's why two apartments of the same size can have completely different prices. One may be in a new district with wide roads and beautiful buildings, but few companies and weak public transport. The other may be old and not very attractive, but close to a metro station, a good school, and thousands of jobs. Most young people would rather have the second one. This also explains why building more apartments doesn't automatically make the homes people want much cheaper. You can build another residential project outside the city, but you can't easily move the entire business center, the best schools, and the metro system there. China's old housing model also makes the problem harder to solve. For many years, local governments earned a large amount of money by selling land, use rights to developers. Developers bought the land, built apartments, and often sold them before construction was finished. This brought money into local governments and helped cities expand very quickly. It also made property extremely important to the wider economy. Local governments depended on land revenue. Banks provided mortgages and loans to developers. Families put much of their savings into apartments. So when people say, why doesn't China just let home prices collapse? The answer is that a collapse would not only hurt rich property investors, it would also hurt ordinary families who already bought homes. It could damage banks, developers, and local government finances. And it could make people even less willing to spend money. For a first-time buyer, a big price drop sounds good, but for a family that used 20 years of savings to buy an apartment, it can feel like their financial security is disappearing. That is why the government faces a difficult balance. Housing needs to become more affordable, but prices cannot fall too quickly without creating other problems. And even after prices fall, homes may still not feel affordable. Imagine an apartment costs 30 years of your income. Then the price falls by 20%. That is a major drop, but it still costs 24 years of income. For the owner, the fall is painful. For the buyer, the home is still expensive. This is especially important for young people today. Our parents often believed that buying a home was one of the safest decisions a family could make. They expected prices to rise over time. So even if the mortgage was large, buying still felt like progress. But many young people no longer think that way. Now we ask, What if the price keeps falling after I buy? What if the developer runs into trouble? What if my job becomes unstable? Do I really want to spend most of my savings and my parents' savings on one apartment? In Shenzhen, even people with decent salaries can feel nervous about taking on a mortgage that may last for decades. It isn't only about whether you can make the payment this month. It's about whether you want your whole future tied to one property. So China's housing market is now divided. In many smaller cities, there are too many homes and not enough buyers. In major cities, prices have fallen in some areas, but the best located homes can still be very expensive, and young buyers have become much more cautious. They want good locations, reliable developers, finished apartments, and cities with real job opportunities. But those are exactly the homes that are hardest to make cheap. So the real question is not, does China have enough apartments? It probably has more than enough in total. The better question is, does China have enough affordable homes in the places where young people can actually build a life? That is a very different question. China has built millions of apartments, but it cannot build millions of Shenzhens, Shanghais, or Beijings. And for young people like me, the empty apartment that exists somewhere far away is not the one we are trying to buy.